Welcome to the channel, everyone. Welcome to Daily English Practice.
Glad to be here.
Yeah, we're really excited for this one. But before we get into it, you know that incredibly frustrating feeling when you're watching, like, a tense thriller?
Oh, absolutely.
Right at the absolute climax of the story, and suddenly...
The screen freezes.
Yes, exactly. That little spinning loading circle appears. The video is buffering.
It completely shatters the momentum.
Right.
You're pulled right out of the immersive experience. And suddenly, all you can focus on is the delay itself. The magic of the moment is just, it's gone.
Totally gone. The flow is broken. Well, today we are exploring a phenomenon that causes that exact same buffering problem, but it happens entirely inside your own head.
Oh, yeah. The internal loading screen.
Exactly. We are tackling what might be the ultimate hurdle for language learners. We're talking about overcoming the deeply ingrained habit of translating in your head and learning to actually genuinely think in English.
Which is huge. It changes everything.
It really does. And we have a massive stack of sources for this session. We're pulling insights from educational platforms like Fluency, TalkPal, and VOA.
Some really great practical stuff in there.
For sure. And we've also got some incredibly revealing neuroscience research from Atlantis Press regarding cognitive transfer, plus, practical coaching techniques from Lingoland and YouTube.
It's a really well-rounded stack.
Yeah, because our mission today isn't just to wag a finger and tell you to, stop translating. Our mission is to break down the exact scientifically backed mechanics of how you can rewire your brain for fluency.
Because fluency isn't about the sheer volume of vocabulary words you have stored in a mental dictionary.
Right. It's not a numbers game.
No, not at all. It is fundamentally about language processing speed. That is the crucial distinction to make right at the start. True fluency only happens when you completely eliminate the middleman.
And the middleman is your native language, right?
Exactly. When you rely on translation, you are forcing your brain to do double, sometimes triple, the cognitive work for a single interaction.
Wow. Triple the work.
Yeah. And that heavy cognitive load is exactly what causes that mental buffering.
Okay, let's unpack this, because the way most of us are taught a second language in school actually builds this terrible, exhausting pipeline.
It really does. The traditional methods kind of set us up to fail in real-time conversations.
Right, because it usually goes like this. You hear an English sentence. Then your brain intercepts it and translates it into your native language.
Step one.
Yeah. Then you formulate your response in your native language. Then you translate that new response back into English.
Right. Step three, step four.
You quickly do a panicked mental grammar check, and finally, you open your mouth to speak.
By which point the other person has probably already moved on.
Exactly. Translating in your head is it's like trying to drive from New York to Los Angeles, but forcing yourself to drive back to Chicago every single time you need to hit the brakes or get gas.
That is a perfect way to visualize it.
Yeah.
You're constantly returning to home base instead of just staying on the highway.
It's a massive, unnecessary detour.
And no wonder it feels exhausting. It kills the natural rhythm of a conversation. It introduces these awkward pauses.
It's like anxiety.
Oh, massive social anxiety. Because you can feel the other person waiting for you to finish processing.
All right. But hold on. I want to challenge the no translation rule for a second here.
Sure. Go for it.
Because I get that returning to Chicago is a detour, but what if you literally don't know the way? Like, if I am a complete beginner and I literally don't know the English word for, say, tax return, I can't think in English about my taxes.
Fair point.
Doesn't the no translation rule completely fall apart at the boundaries of your vocabulary? Isn't it absolutely necessary when you're just starting out?
Well, yes, it is entirely normal, and translation serves as essential scaffolding in the very early stages of language acquisition.
Okay, scaffolding.
Yeah. When you have zero vocabulary, you need an anchor to your native tongue to establish basic meaning. But the problem is that learners build their entire house inside that scaffolding.
Oh, I see.
And then they refuse to take it down. It hardens into a permanent barrier.
Wow. Okay.
And the neuroscience behind how human thought actually works is quite revealing here. Because we don't naturally think in full, poetic, grammatically perfect sentences anyway.
We don't.
Not even in our native languages.
Wait, elaborate on that, because I definitely feel like I have a voice in my head narrating my life in, complete grammatical sentences.
You might be selectively verbalizing some thoughts, but the foundational level of human cognition, like the exact moment a thought is actually born, is much faster and much messier.
Messy how?
Well, the research points out a brilliant example of this. Imagine you oversleep.
Okay, my worst nightmare.
Right, you wake up, look at the clock, and realize you are an hour late for a crucial meeting. Your inner monologue is not generating a pristine sentence like, I have awakened later than my intended schedule and must now drastically accelerate my morning routine.
Right, definitely not. It's more like a surge in cortisol and pure panic.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The actual thought is instantaneous. It's just, late. Oh no. Hurry. Boss angry.
Just flashes of panic.
Yes. Our brains think in flashes of imagery, situational awareness, and urgent emotional concepts long before we dress those concepts up in the formal clothing of language.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense.
So the cognitive shift we need to make when learning English is not about learning to translate faster.
It's about bypassing it entirely.
Precisely. It is about training the brain to attach the English label directly to that raw image or situation, completely bypassing the native language network.
Okay, that clarifies things immensely. You want the physical sensation of waking up late to trigger the English word hurry directly.
Yes.
But if the goal is to connect raw images and situations directly to English, I mean, your environment has to actually force that connection, right?
Absolutely.
You can't just passively sit in a room where everything is in your native language and hope your brain magically starts wiring itself to English.
Precisely. Because the brain is relentlessly efficient, it will always take the path of least resistance.
Makes sense.
If your environment allows you to use your native language, your brain is going to use it. To change this, you have to engineer your physical and digital environment. You have to construct what linguists call a language bubble.
A language bubble. And the sources get highly specific about how to build this bubble. It's about total physical and digital immersion.
Yep.
They suggest the obvious things like changing your phone and computer operating systems to English. But then there's the physical space, using sticky notes to label household items.
Which is a classic trick.
Right, but let's actually elevate that sticky note concept, because just writing refrigerator on your fridge is just, well, memorizing a noun. It doesn't help you think.
Exactly. It's too passive.
What if you label the action? What if you put a sticky note on the handle that says, I'm opening the fridge?
Now you're moving from passive vocabulary to active neuroplasticity.
Really? Just from changing it to an action?
Yes.
Yeah.
By doing that, you aren't just memorizing a noun. You are physically tying your muscle movement, the act of pulling the door, to an English syntax pattern.
Oh, wow.
You are training the brain to associate a physical action directly with an English phrase, which completely bypasses the need to translate the action.
That makes the bubble so much more dynamic. And for digital immersion, there is a fascinating concept mentioned in the educational materials called the progressive viewing strategy.
I love this strategy.
It's cool, right? You don't just jump into a complex, dialogue-heavy political drama. You start your immersion with children's shows or animated content. Then you level up to reality TV and eventually move on to documentaries.
And the mechanism behind why that works is crucial. When you watch a children's show, the visuals perfectly, literally match the simple audio.
Right, like Dora the Explorer or something.
Exactly. If a character says, the ball is red, they're physically holding up a red ball. This mimics the exact way a child acquires their first language.
Oh, because kids don't have a native language to translate from yet.
Precisely. Children don't start by reading complex literature. They start by pointing at physical objects, hearing the sound associated with them, and mapping the audio directly to the visual.
So it's recreating childhood learning.
Exactly. By using the progressive viewing strategy, you are intentionally recreating that developmental environment, allowing your adult brain to bypass its sophisticated native language filter.
Okay, but let's be realistic for a second. Building a bubble inside your house is one thing, but what happens when you step outside?
The real world.
Yeah. What happens when you're at work or at a store and you encounter an object or a situation and you just flat out don't know the English word for it? Do you just freeze? Doesn't the bubble pop the second you hit the limits of your vocabulary?
What's fascinating here is that exact moment of frustration is where you either build cognitive resilience or you retreat to your native language.
Okay, so how do we build a resilience?
The key is using mental imagery and English-to-English definitions.
English to English.
Yes. Let's say you are looking at a garage, but you have completely forgotten the word garage. The absolute worst thing you can do for your fluency is run to a bilingual dictionary to translate it.
Oh, really?
Yes. In fact, one of the coaching sources jokes that a bilingual dictionary is really only good for putting your coffee cup on so it doesn't leave a ring on your desk.
That's great. An incredibly expensive coaster. I love that.
Exactly. Instead of looking up the translation, you force yourself to describe the object using the simple English vocabulary you do already possess.
Okay, give me an example.
You say to yourself, the place inside where I put my car, or the room next to the house for my vehicle.
Oh, I get it.
By describing your way around the missing word, you are keeping your brain safely and productively trapped inside the English language network.
You're building a detour instead of hitting a dead end.
Exactly.
But let's look at the mechanics of a real conversation. Describing a garage as the house for a car takes time. If you do that for every single missing word, the conversation is going to leave you in the dust.
It will. You can't do it for everything.
So how do you increase your reaction speed? Well, you have to stop building sentences from scratch, word by word, and start relying on what linguists call chunks.
Yes. The shift from single words to chunks is arguably the most important mechanical shift in language processing.
So explain the mechanism of a chunk, because building a sentence word by word feels like, I don't know, doing complex math in your head while someone is staring at you.
It does feel like that.
Um,
And that's because building sentences word by word overloads your working memory.
Right.
Your short-term memory has strict limits. If you were trying to say, to be honest, I disagree, and you build it manually, you have to retrieve the word to, then the word be, then the word honest.
Then retrieve the grammar rule that connects them.
Exactly. Then retrieve I, then disagree. That is immense cognitive load. A chunk bypasses your working memory limits.
How so?
Instead of holding all those separate words and rules, your brain treats the phrase, to be honest, as a single consolidated file.
Oh. So it's like a keyboard shortcut for your brain.
Exactly. You pull the whole file at once. You just drop the chunk into the conversation.
That's so much faster.
It frees up an enormous amount of your brain's processing power. This allows you to focus entirely on the actual emotion or point you want to convey rather than the mechanics of the grammar.
And these chunks are absolute lifesavers because they buy you time to think.
They do?
Think about the most common interaction in the English language. Someone asks, "How are you?"
And what you say?
You automatically reply, "Fine, thanks." You don't pause, translate how, translate are, translate who, process the existential meaning of your current state of being, and then translate fine back into English.
Right. That'd be ridiculous.
You just react. The question and the answer are linked as one massive cognitive chunk.
And our goal is to replicate that automatic zero translation reaction across much more complex conversations.
But of course, a chunk won't save you if you simply don't know the core noun of what you're trying to talk about.
True.
Which is why chunking must be paired with paraphrasing.
Paraphrasing is the ultimate anti-translation skill.
Yeah.
And it's important to remember that fluent native speakers forget words all the time.
All the time.
It is a completely normal limitation of the human brain.
Oh, it happens to me daily. I'll be sitting on the couch pointing at the coffee table going, "Pass me the, the clicker thing for the TV."
Right.
I know the word is remote control, but my brain just misfiles it in the moment.
Precisely. But notice what you didn't do. You didn't suddenly switch to a different language when you forgot the word remote.
Right. I didn't start speaking Spanish or French.
You didn't freeze.
Mm.
You paraphrased. You used semantic flexibility.
Semantic flexibility.
Yeah. If an English learner forgets the word umbrella, they shouldn't panic and try to translate it from their mother tongue. They should just say, the thing you use to stay dry when it rains.
Just talk around it.
Exactly. Semantic flexibility is about understanding that communication is about conceptual mapping, not a rigid one-to-one word equivalence. When you use English to explain English, you are truly, deeply thinking in the language.
I love that. But knowing about chunks and paraphrasing is great in theory. The intimidating part is actually deploying these skills in a real-time conversation when a native speaker is looking you in the eye, waiting for an answer.
The pressure is real.
Yeah. So how do you build this mental agility without the intense, sweaty palms pressure of a real conversation?
You need a practice environment where the stakes are absolute zero.
Zero stakes.
Yes, and that is where active, solitary practice routines become vital.
Which brings us to a brilliantly simple technique from the coaching materials. The micro-monologue.
This is a game changer.
It really is. We all have an internal monologue, right? We all talk to ourselves in our heads all day long.
Naturally.
The micro-monologue method simply asks you to redirect just 10 to 20 seconds of that internal chatter into English.
Just 10 seconds.
Yeah, you don't need to block out an hour of rigorous study time at a desk. You just narrate your life in microbursts.
It's about high frequency, not long duration. Doing 20 10-second monologues throughout the day is vastly more effective for rewiring your brain than staring at a textbook for 3 hours straight.
And the examples they give are so mundane, which is exactly why they work. Like when you're making your morning coffee, you just think in English. Water is boiling. I'm pouring the water. This smells good.
It's incredibly basic.
But it forces your neural pathways to operate in English without any external pressure.
And once you master the mundane, you escalate to storytelling.
Okay, how does that work?
Well, our sources highlight an excellent improvisational technique. Open the photo gallery on your phone, pick a completely random picture, and force yourself to describe the scene out loud for 1 minute.
Oh, that's clever.
Who is in the picture?
Yeah.
What happened right before the photo was snapped? What is going to happen next?
It's like a solo improv game. But I know what stops people from doing this. Perfectionism.
Ah, yes.
You start describing the photo, you realize you used the wrong verb tense, you get frustrated, and you just quit.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, that is exactly why the single most important rule from the educational coaching is simple first, better later.
Simple first, better later.
Yes. When you are speaking, whether to yourself or someone else, you do not need to produce a complex, flawless academic sentence right out of the gate.
That's a huge relief.
That demand for perfection is exactly what triggers the brain to fall back on the translation habit. Instead, you build the thought in layers.
Walk us through the mechanics of building a thought in layers.
Let's say you are in a meeting and you want to express a nuanced business opinion about a new project. You don't try to formulate a massive compound sentence. You start simple.
Okay.
Layer 1, I don't like it.
It's very simple.
Layer 2, it feels risky. Layer 3, because we don't have enough time.
Wow.
You have successfully communicated a complex, nuanced thought using 3 very simple, manageable chunks.
And what if you make a grammatical error in one of those layers? Let's say I say, he go to work instead of he goes.
You must train yourself to course correct in motion.
In motion.
You absolutely do not stop, punish yourself, apologize, and derail the thought. You simply repeat it correctly. He goes to work. And keep the flow going.
Just smooth it over.
Exactly. You train your brain to treat a grammar mistake as a minor bump in the road rather than a catastrophic system failure that requires a full reboot.
Just keep moving forward. Now, if you commit to this, if you ditch the dictionary, build your bubble, rely on chunks, and narrate your coffee making every morning, you are obviously going to become a highly fluent English speaker.
Without a doubt.
But here's where it gets really interesting. According to the neuroscience research from Atlantis Press, something else happens. Something massive that goes way beyond just communicating.
Yes. The cognitive benefits of this specific process are staggering.
So it acts like resistance training for the executive control center of your brain. Because you're constantly forcing your brain to resolve ambiguity in English, it naturally gets faster at resolving ambiguity everywhere else.
It's a full brain workout.
It really is. Learning to truly think in a foreign language acts as a catalyst for higher order thinking. It literally changes the way your brain processes information across the board.
The research on the academic transfer effect breaks down exactly why this happens physically in the brain.
Okay, lay it on us.
When you are thinking in a foreign language, you are constantly making high-speed micro-decisions.
Like what kind of decisions?
Which word fits this specific cultural context? Which tone should I use? Is this the correct grammatical structure for a past hypothetical event?
Oh, right, constantly.
Every single one of those micro-decisions is a literal workout for the prefrontal cortex, which is the executive control center responsible for planning, logic, and complex problem solving.
So it's basically lifting weights for your logic center.
Exactly. By constantly engaging it through rapid language processing, you are myelinating those neural pathways, making them faster and stronger.
And this transfers to unrelated subjects, because the studies show that bilingual students are actually better at math, which honestly sounds like magic.
It does sound crazy, but it's not.
Let's break down exactly how recognizing grammar patterns directly translates to algebraic pattern recognition.
It all comes down to resolving ambiguity using context. Let's say a student is looking at an English sentence. The fast run tired them out.
Okay.
In a fraction of a second, their brain has to deduce that the word run is functioning as a noun in this specific context, not a verb, based entirely on the surrounding clues, the article they and the adjective fast.
Oh, I see.
That rapid pattern recognition, that ability to resolve structural ambiguity using context clues, that is the exact same cognitive mechanism used when looking at a complex algebra equation and determining the role of a variable.
That is mind-blowing.
The brain doesn't have a language-only pattern recognizer and a separate math-only pattern recognizer. It just has a pattern recognition engine. When you upgrade the engine using English, it runs better for math, science, and logic puzzles.
So by struggling through English syntax and forcing yourself not to translate, you are actively upgrading your brain's operating system. And the research highlights that this also breeds divergent thinking. Because you're used to paraphrasing, like looking at a garage and coming up with 3 different ways to describe it, you naturally look at a science problem and immediately start generating multiple possible solutions rather than getting stuck on just one.
You become a more agile, creative, and robust problem solver in every single aspect of your life.
Intellectual resistance training. What a perfect way to frame it. We have covered incredible ground today. Let's distill this session down.
Good idea.
If you want to achieve true fluency and stop the mental buffering, you have to dismantle the translation pipeline. Driving through Chicago to get to LA is a waste of time.
A huge waste.
Build your physical and digital language bubble and label the actions, not just the nouns. Stop relying on isolated words and start dropping chunks into your conversations.
And embrace paraphrasing to detour around the words you forget.
Exactly. Practice your cognitive agility every single day with 10-second micromonologues. And as you do this, embrace the massive cognitive upgrades to your pattern recognition and problem-solving skills that naturally follow.
And as we wrap up, I want to leave you with a final thought to ponder that pushes this even further.
Oh, laterness.
We've talked about how thinking in English changes your brain's mechanics. But consider the concept of linguistic relativity, the idea that the language you speak fundamentally shapes the reality you perceive.
Wow, really?
Yes, there are languages that lack distinct words for certain colors, and studies show their speakers literally cannot perceive the difference between those shades.
That is wild.
There are languages that use absolute cardinal directions, north, south, east, west instead of left and right, and those speakers have a flawless innate sense of orientation.
Like a built-in compass.
Exactly. So by changing your inner voice to English, you aren't just learning a new tool for communication. You might actually be unlocking entirely new ways of perceiving the physical and emotional world around you, a complete perceptual shift.
A complete perceptual shift. That is a lot to chew on. So what does this all mean for you? Well, your challenge for today. Don't let your brain show you that loading circle ever again. As soon as this discussion ends, I want you to do a 10-second micromonologue. Change your inner voice right now. Look around whatever room you were in and describe exactly what you were doing entirely in English. Thank you so much for hanging out with us today on Daily English Practice.
It's been great.
And hey, before you go, we want to invite everyone to interact with us. Please like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel. We'd love to hear how your first micromonologue went in the comments. See you next time.